Welcome to the College of Wealth podcast, the ultimate financial guide to help you understand your financial stresses and how you can build from it. Your lessons won't be in class, and your projects can either save you or earn you money. We host episodes 2 times a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays to help you reach your financial freedom. Now let's get started with your hosts, Owen, Paradis, and William Goulet.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Owen Paradis. I'm here with my co-host, William Goulet. We're proud to present to you the College of Wealth podcast. A bit of voice crack going on.
I think I might be losing it today, but that's okay.
That was good. I love that. This is a financial podcast. We like to say that this is a financial podcast that teaches you the latest and greatest information about money, because at the end of the day, this is a crazy money-making world.
Definitely making money, and well, things can get a little loco at times, so I'm on board with that.
Just a little loco. But we like to go and say that this is a financial podcast, but we like to do a little bit of housework, house cleanup, or however you like to go and call it here, a little bit of cleanup, just to go and say that we are not financial advisors here at the College of Wealth podcast, but we like to go.
Well, certainly not me anyway, so when I gotta just clarify that I'm not a financial advisor.
No, I'm not a financial advisor either.
Oh, true.
But that's kind of sort of why we like to go and call this. We like to go and say that this podcast is solely for entertainment purposes only.
Well,
because
so yes, to entertainment purposes only. I don't know. So here's the thing: with all our info that we provide, you do some great information, some awesome research ahead of every episode.
I guess so, yeah.
Let's include that in how we label ourselves. So
Okay.
Informational, entertainment, slap them together. I'm thinking infotainment.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Infotainment is like, I like that a lot, because here at the College of Wealth podcast, we like to go and provide the information.
Yes.
Infotainment here.
Put her all together.
Yes. But in reality, Will and I, we do this podcast for our listeners, because at the end of the day, what do we like to do, Will?
We like to make money or save it in some cases.
Exactly. We like to go and say all that kind of stuff here at the College of Wealth podcast. But today, on episode 102, this is going to be one you're going to like, Will.
All right.
And I'm really surprised we haven't done this one, but Will and I just came back from a vacation in the last 4 or 5 days. And this episode is dedicated to traveling on a dime.
Oh, I kind of wish we had done this episode
last week
ahead of our trip.
But this one's on traveling on a dime, because we now, like I've said beforehand, we're not financial advisors or anything like that. We're not travel or trip advisors. We're just two guys who have bachelor's degrees in business and work in a financial field. And we want to go and give you the best tips and tricks on traveling this time here. So I'm excited about that.
That's awesome. Well, we do have interest, like you said, in the financial industry, how to make money.
Yes.
As well as the tourism industry.
Yes. So the way I broke this down is in 5 different sections.
Yeah.
So the first section is obviously our stats, like we always do.
Oh, stat man. Of course.
The second one is finding the right destination / planning.
Yeah.
Our third one would be booking your flights in the hotel. So things that you should consider.
Major key.
For sure. Our fourth one would be figuring out activities to do on your trip itself.
Mm-hmm.
And the fifth and final thing is the best tips to reduce your costs while or before your trip itself.
Yeah, we're in the after section of ours. But for the next time round, we'll be ready.
Exactly. I'm very excited about this here, because honestly, like the best tips and everything, I only added 5 of them, but there could have been so much more that I could have added.
Honestly, and all pertaining to financial as well. Like, there's just, it's such a huge part of it.
Like, I'm literally writing one down because I just thought of it as well.
Well, no, and it's true that the planning before and the during is where you'll be able to make most of your savings.
Yes. You don't plan, it's going to cost you a lot more. Plain and simple.
It's the classic. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yes, exactly. I love that really well. And talking about this kind of stuff, we got to go and hop into our stats.
Yes.
And I'm very excited about this here. So in April of 2022, there were just a little bit over 1 million people that have traveled to Canada. 1,001,313 people to be precise.
Wow.
What percentage change was that according to April of 2021, April of 2021?
Okay, so 2021, we were right in the middle of the pandemic. Everything was getting shut. Let's say I'm going to say 100% increase.
Try a 666.5% increase.
Wow. Holy mackerel.
I have another stat somewhat related to this on our third stat, like it's very similar. So it's going to be the other way. I'll spin it another way around. So you'll see.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So April of 2022, there was just under 2.8 million people that have traveled abroad. So people going from Canada to other countries.
Yeah.
What percentage change was that according to April in regards to April 2021?
Definitely more still. People are getting more comfortable. Let's go 200%.
I just told you 666% last time.
Well, coming in.
Yes.
But now it's going out.
Try 725% change.
Wow. So big boost in Canadians leaving.
Almost 7.5 times more.
Wow.
Now,
that's disproportionate. Whew.
A third stat, somewhat similar to this, but it's pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
The entire summer of 2019, there was a total of just under 9.5 million visitors in Canada. How many visitors were there in the summer of 2020? So when I say summer, I mean from July or June up until September.
Yeah. Well, I must have been ghastly low. 500,000?
That's a good guess, but you're wrong. 200,000.
Wow. Man, there's just no fixing it. And Canada must be the summer must be the busiest time in Canada.
Oh, very much so. Because why on earth would you want to come to Canada in the middle of winter?
Outside of summer, there's no.
Yeah. It's the only appealing time in Canada. The 2-week slot of Canada of summer for Canada.
Yeah, exactly. Don't blink, man. Don't blink. And there again, it shows the importance of planning when making a trip. Okay, yes. So what are the two weeks of summer in Canada? Let's make sure to go then.
Now, the last stat I got, this is according to postrates.com.
Okay.
And this is the average cost of vacation in the United States. So we got to go and include our US listeners into this here. What is the average cost for a vacation in the United States per person?
Oh, I don't know. $900.
Your previous guess was closer. It's just under $1,600.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, well, per average American. I wonder what the medians would be.
I don't even know. I didn't look that up there, but I thought it'd be hilarious. But you think about it, a lot of Canadians go to the United States, and to go cross border, that's more expensive. Now, where do Americans go? Well, more than likely, they're going to go abroad to Europe or anything like that.
I think a lot of Americans stay within.
That could very well be. Yeah, there's so much to offer in the United States.
Yeah, there's a bunch of density pockets. Whereas in Canada, we're pretty low in density pockets. We got a baker's dozen, maybe. Like
literally. They say the most popular places are Vancouver and Toronto.
Yeah, that's.
And it flip-flops between the most popular destinations: Vancouver, Toronto. It always changes.
And the French like Montreal as well.
From
France, I mean specifically.
Yes, exactly. So we got to go and speak about our first piece of information here.
Okay.
Finding the right destination / planning.
Oh, yes.
And this is a very critical one, very important. And a lot of people don't realize how it is to plan, because you're going to be paying a lot more if you don't decide to do that. Like you said beforehand. So the first thing you got to go is consider your budget. The first thing you got to do is just without considering where you want to go, how much are you willing to spend on a trip?
Yes.
If you're going to go and say $1,000, that is, and you want $1,000, don't expect to go to Hawaii unless you plan on cutting budgets very tightly.
Or riding in through the storm. Yeah. You can maybe do that.
Well, that's it. And so it's just a thing to consider in that sense here.
And now, you should also, once you have your list of people who are going, try and find the compromise. And it's always that taboo, that classic taboo of talking finances, right?
Literally.
But you do, it's something that you have to ask. You say, okay, guys, where are we looking to go and how much are we looking to spend?
Yeah, that's just for like, if you want to go in a group in general. Not everyone wants to go in a group.
Sure, but definitely set a budget, right?
Yes, exactly. No two ways about that. Don't go and don't start planning a trip without looking at your budget first. It's like, okay, well, I want to go to Los Angeles. Okay, well, I live in Toronto.
Yeah. And
my budget's $500. That's going to be tough. That is going to be very tough.
And also, maybe you need to save up for it as well and say, okay, well, if I am going this destination, I can't do it without at least this much, and I'll need to save up by this time, right?
Yes, exactly. And the next thing you got to go and plan out in regards to exactly what you're talking about is the type of trip you want to do.
Yeah.
So you were talking about, okay, well, I want to, let's say for the example, Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what exactly do I want to do in Los Angeles? Do I just want to do leisure? Do I want to go and relax, stay by the beaches because there are resorts by the beach in Los Angeles? Do I want to go and stay downtown? Do you want to do all the activities that's available there? Do I want to go there for business? Like, those are all different things that you have to consider. And your budget also will reflect that as well. Like, if you're going for business, well, maybe you can write some things off as business expenses. But if you're going for leisure, maybe staying there for 7 days may be more than enough. Whereas activity-wise, it may not.
Yeah. And once you start factoring those activities, man, that's where they get you.
Oh, so like, we spoke a lot about looking up stuff, and that's the biggest thing you got to do is research.
Yes.
Find locations that meet exactly what you're looking for, your wants and your needs.
Yeah.
And whether it be flights, whether it be hotels or anything like that. Like, I'm saying Los Angeles because in March I was close to going on a trip to Los Angeles. I think I remember telling you.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And unfortunately, it fell out of my budget because of the timeline. But the flight there took me approximately from where I am now. I think it took me 8 hours.
Okay.
Because basically I'm on one end of the country and Los Angeles is on the other end of the country.
Yeah.
But it wasn't so bad because I could do it within 1 day because of the airstreams.
Now, was there a layover? Did you have a layover for your flight? Or
it was to go from here to Toronto to Los Angeles. Okay, it was pretty direct.
And that flight was 8 hours?
Yes.
Wow.
Like, well, from where I am to Toronto to
gotcha. Total travel time.
Yeah, total travel time was 8 hours. And which isn't that bad, honestly.
Yeah.
But the flight back, on the other hand, was something like 16 hours, 18 hours. And because the airstreams are going against, so it takes longer. So it went from Los Angeles to Vancouver to Toronto to my hometown. So I was basically taking 2 days. I was committing 3 days to just travel. And I had I couldn't take too much vacation days, and I was like, this is going to cost well over $3,000. This is not worth it.
Yeah, and there's also opportunity costs as well with your vacation time, right?
Well, that's exactly it. You're going to be spending, just because, like, if you don't have holidays or anything like that, or if you're taking away some holidays that you don't have, or you have limited of.
Yeah, exactly.
And the last thing you got to look at too, like along with that research, is websites that are known for deals. We're going to talk more about those websites later on.
Yeah.
But there are websites that will give you discounts or will offer you certain deals if you're part of groups of any kind, business groups. It's really, really cool. It's awesome.
Well, one thing I want to add in is it's so important to plan, like you were saying. We caught ourselves ahead of time. Our friend group started planning way early, and because we were doing that, we were able to get to plan out attendance. We were able to plan out, budgets, the type of activities we wanted to do, and we were able to make this trip. And I don't have any other friend group that I was never able to make anything huge like this happen. And it makes me think of this one quote by Charles Schwab.
Okay.
Not the bank, but Charles Schwab himself.
Yes. Yes.
And he says this. He says the difference between getting somewhere and nowhere is the courage to make an early start.
I like that's good.
So rather than planning way ahead of time, rather than doing it last minute and joining in and say, oh, maybe I can squeeze this in. No. We planned, we got everything we wanted laid out, and we had all the tickets for everything we wanted to do.
Well, we were talking about exactly that. Well, being able to work your finances too.
Yes.
Like, I hate to be that person. There are certain people that are there, and it's like, okay, well, we planned this trip out 3 months at a time, and it wasn't an extravagant trip. Like, I'm just in regards to the trip that you and I went.
Yeah, we
literally went. For anyone who doesn't know, it was just on the outskirts of Toronto.
Yeah,
an hour and a half out of Toronto that we went to a specific city. And it wasn't extravagant or anything, but it was a place that we really loved to go to. And we had 3 months to plan this trip, which is more than enough time to figure out your budgets. And we still had some people who could not figure their budgets out.
And the itinerary, even to last minute, we were still saying, oh, well, maybe we can nudge this here, nudge this there.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be that inevitable part, but our big lines were figured out nice and early.
Yes. And the last thing I'm going to have to say for this part here is not everything is going to go according to plan.
Yeah.
We had that happen on our trip. Just for an example for everyone, it was very unfortunate. We had 2 instances of miscommunication, but the one that we had, unfortunately, happened where we were looking forward to go play a round of golf.
Yeah.
And I could not bring my golf clubs. I was under the assumption that it was just, I had to place everything into one vehicle, and it just didn't work out according to plan. Just some slight miscommunication on my part. And we were under the assumption that there'd be club rentals at the shop, but because I'm left-handed and no one else in our group is left-handed, the club shop said we don't have rentals, so I could not golf.
So in a sense, it's an unintentional lack of planning, which is the communication aspect.
Yes, right? Yes, exactly. There was no one to blame on this one here. It was just unfortunate miscommunication that led to that. But you and I and my girlfriend literally went out to go play mini putt, and I taught you guys how to golf.
Yeah, which was I find it was a fantastic substitute. I wouldn't have changed a thing.
At the driving range, we did a good substitute for the driving range there. Yeah. So that is something that you could do. Like, you can manipulate that kind of stuff, that information or those timelines the way you want to, if you have it planned correctly.
Yeah. And there's always a plan B, right?
Yes, exactly.
So we were, by having additional vehicles, we were able to execute a plan B if we needed one.
Yep. Now, the second part we're going to be talking about is booking the flights and hotels themselves.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I have to say, and I'm sure you've done this well because you've done a lot of international flights, and I mean, especially to the United States and stuff like that, is to try and buy a package deal. If you're looking to do a leisure trip or anything like that, the cheapest option is going to buy a flight and hotel together.
Yeah. That all depends. For me, there's a bit of a difference because I try to go ultra cheap. So yeah, a lot of times package deals will be, oh, well, you can get this 3-4 star hotel and this flight.
Yes.
And then I'm like, okay, you know what? My target is to hit this kind of budget. So I have to do 2 separate plannings. Actually, because it's not in a package, depending on what your budget is, it can actually be more expensive.
Yes.
Than taking care of everything and trying to coordinate.
Well, that's actually something I wanted. Well, literally, I have it in parentheses there at the end.
Yeah.
If you do a package deal, however, it is more, it's less flexible than if you decide to do it separately, because not all flights are available for packages and not all hotels are available with a flight package deal.
Exactly.
So sometimes you do have to purchase separately to go and get the hotel or the resort or anything like that, or location you want with the flight that you want.
Yeah. And sometimes you'll have to call your own taxi in a foreign language and maybe have someone help you out and stuff like that. You might not get the concierge service that they might offer.
Literally, yeah. It's unintended, how can you say, unintended
consequences.
Setback, yeah.
You
never know what's going to happen. I had my parents book a package. We went to Florida when I was younger, and we had to do they took part in a condo. So we were at a condo for 3 or 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
And what ended up happening was they had to do this short seminar on the condos themselves to use them as a timeshare.
Yeah.
And they said it was only half an hour. They had a mini putt there, so my sister and I could play and use the water park or whatever. While my parents were stuck there for 3 hours.
That's always the case. They always say it's half an hour, but then then the salesmen get to you and they'll try and rope you in and keep you there for as long as possible.
They give you some very strong drinks. Let's put it that way.
It's a good way of putting it.
And so they can get aggressive too. It's not always pleasant dealing with them. Like, I know my mom and my stepdad both left extremely upset more than anything. And it had the reverse effect because they could not stand them. And they were being borderline aggressive with my mom and my stepdad, saying, you're not letting us finish our seminar. You're not letting us finish, or else we'll kick you out.
That's like brutal.
That. Yeah, that was the resort that they were, the condo resort that we were at. And they said, we're not going there anymore.
Yeah, so that actually ended up costing them.
But the cheapest days, according to the research I found, to look for packages are on Tuesdays.
Mm-hmm.
You can get up to 10 to 15%, sometimes up to 20% off on flights or packages.
That start on Tuesdays, or purchasing them on Tuesdays?
Purchasing them on Tuesdays.
Oh, okay.
And the best time to purchase international trips are around 5.5 months ahead of time.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Holy crap. That's I don't know that I have done that, but maybe I should. Jeez.
That's what ends up happening, because after that you end up getting into the demand, what they call, like Uber says, surge demand.
Yeah.
And that goes up in price. People start going in, 3 months come around, and that now more and more people are taking up those seats, and the prices go up and up and up until 3 weeks prior.
Oh, and so it's sort of like a curve where it goes up and then it starts getting more affordable again.
Yes, okay. Exactly. They will actually start charging you. They start charging you less. Yeah. Usually within 3 weeks is when they start giving you a deal.
Mm-hmm.
So things to consider. I'm not saying to do last minute flights or anything like that, because the options are extremely limited, and you're biting the bullet here.
And I bet you it has to do a lot as well with if they're not selling them. If they're not selling them and they see the clock starting to tick, then they'll start those nice discounts. But
yes,
if they're sold out, hey, you're probably what they call SOL.
exactly. You can't be picky when it comes to that kind of stuff. If you want to do a quick,
if you're time limited, you can't be picky.
The other thing to consider is if you just want to go on a trip and that's your priority, but if price is your only priority for a vacation, then don't be picky.
Okay.
Don't be picky, because if you want to go to the metropolitan center, it's going to be more expensive. You want to go to a very populous place, it's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
They're going to go to an area that has tourist attractions, it's going to be expensive. You want to go to the cheap area, you want to go on a cheap flight or a cheap trip, or economical, I prefer the term economical trip.
Yeah.
You are going to more likely go to an area that's a little less desirable.
Yeah.
But you're still going to get a taste of what that country is, or what the area is in general, without the tourist attractions attached to it.
And some people plan that specifically. And one thing to understand is my family, when we were younger, we did trips to New York City. Now, nice. I don't know if you know about New York City hotels, but they are crazy expensive.
Yes, they are.
Now, the company, we had a full tourist trip, and the way that they laid it out is, well, at the end of the day, we gather in a spot and we drive to New Jersey and sleep there. We wake up in the morning in New Jersey, drive back to New York City, and continue our activities. So that's one way that they were able to make it affordable for us and partake in everything New York City had to offer. For those who were willing to spend the money, you could upgrade to a New York City room and sleep there, have a little bit more time for yourself, spend your evenings there. Yep. So you're right. And there's different options for different kinds of budgets.
And well, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. The last point here in regards to booking flights and hotels is the cheapest isn't always the cheapest.
Yeah.
And because a lot of times with flights and trips like that, if you're sacrificing money, or if you're not sacrificing money, you're sacrificing time.
Oh yeah. For flying that's the brutal one, man.
Well, that's exactly it. Like I was saying, I took 2 flights to Florida. Like I've done 2 trips to Florida as a teenager, and our first one was from Toronto to Orlando, proper, and I thought that was great. But we still flew directly from Toronto, so we had to drive 7 hours from our hometown to Toronto to take the flight. While the next trip we did wanted to be even more economical. So we drove to Toronto. There's a flight from Toronto to Chicago to Miami to Orlando.
And they're like right next to each other. So that was definitely.
Yeah. So it was really, really, it was crazy because we spent basically 2 days traveling both times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was quite the trip, but my mom was obviously livid after that. She says, there's no freaking way I'm doing layovers like that again.
Well, it depends too how much you're saving, but man, to justify something like that, you got to be saving boku bucks, as they got to say.
Yeah. Exactly. A lot of people don't realize that just because it's cheaper doesn't mean that it's good.
Yeah, that's right.
And the last point I have to say in regards to this point here is low-cost airlines aren't always the greatest.
If you need a pour sip of water and you don't have money on the plane, you're doomed.
Well, I was going to take a trip to Cuba, and this was literally, I booked it, I would have to say January of 2020, with at the time my previous girlfriend. And it was for May of that year.
Okay.
Of 2020.
Nice. Great planning.
Well, yeah, and that was my joke all the time. It was like, oh yeah, so I'm packing my sunblock, and I was going to Cuba. So my sunblock, my swimming trunks there, my sunglasses, a pandemic, and then I was like, wait a second, who added pandemic on this list here?
Yeah. I thought you were gonna say and a parachute because you grabbed a really low cost air, one of those chicken coop airs where you're riding alongside with chickens in cages, you know.
Yeah. But no, it was one of those things that I was really I got screwed over. I didn't get screwed over. I got my money back, thankfully. But it was with a flight called Sunwing, an airline called Sunwing.
Oh, destination vacations special.
Yeah, and I decided to take the trip. I was like, I was good, but our advisor went and said, it's a little cramped. Are you tall by chance? I'm like, yes, I am. I'm 6'3". Okay, we're gonna try and get you some of the better seats, like the front seats, because you're not gonna fit in those seats. And I'm like,
oh no,
you got to be kidding me. And she's like, no, my husband's 6'2", and he had his knees like up against him. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm taller than that. I would not fit. And she's like, exactly. And I'm like, oh
man, they in this case they are literally planning to fail.
So I think that's an awesome way to end this segment right here.
Yeah.
So now that we have the second point here, talking about booking flights and hotels, we got to go and talk about figuring out the activities you want to do for your trip.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot to do when it comes to that as well, because just having a hotel and having a flight may not be fun.
It's not quite the vacation that we hope for.
Just gonna get to the hotel and stay there for 7 days straight.
Yeah.
And do nothing.
Well, that's the advantage of cruise lines, right?
Yes.
You don't have to book anything. You just sort of decide once you're there.
True. That's a good point. So the first thing you got to go and do is similar to what we're talking about. The first point here is you got to research. Understand what's available out there in the community that you're going to, the city, the town, wherever you're going. See what's available, because there are certain things you may not be aware of as well.
True.
Because a lot of people think of the tourist destinations. They think of, let's say, Las Vegas. Well, they think Colorado. They think the Grand Canyon, or they think casinos in general. Las Vegas, the casinos.
Yeah.
Well, they're just casinos in Las Vegas.
And at the Grand Canyon, there's not just the canyon itself. There's activities there that you might want to plan for.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of people, they draw to that because there's a lot of especially little things. I kind of had this as a third or fourth point, but go and talk to the clerks and everything like that, like the hotel clerks. Go and talk to people who live there.
Yeah.
Like if you have an opportunity to try and talk to someone who lives there, you may be pleasantly surprised that there's a lot more available than you think. And
talk to the cab driver. If you take a cab, that's a good one.
Funny story, I'll say it quick. So my old boss, she went to Cuba, and her family went at the beginning of March.
Okay.
And this was just before COVID happened.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Good save. Nice save.
Yeah. And what happened was she ended up, she said she went and got a tour, and she asked the bus driver, hey, is there a specific location that you're actually got a taxi? Sorry. They asked the taxi guy as well. And hey, could you show us where to go? Like a genuine Cuban restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. And he says, but I have a friend here. Well, I'll give you the ride. You don't have to pay for anything other than our meal. Sure, no problem. Deal. So they brought him to a restaurant, paid for the meal of his friend and himself and him as well.
Yeah.
And she said it wasn't that much more expensive. Like, I mean, it was pretty cool, honestly. Yeah. Just to see, as we're coming out, a tourist bus arrive at this restaurant. So she realized that he just brought him that. Yeah, and the meals themselves were US based price.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so she wasn't pleased. She kind of sort of got scammed there of a genuine Cuban restaurant.
So this guy said, "Oh, you know what? This could be a nice opportunity for a nice little meal
Yeah.
at a U.S. restaurant."
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny, but yeah, she was a bit disappointed. So she's like, well, I guess I can't trust everyone you see there.
Yeah, and one of the advantages, like let's say for I'll give you an example. We went to Rome, and
Yes.
they have different Vatican tours. Some you can access some parts that are free, some of them are paid, and it's a paid tour.
Yes.
Now you'll see some people try to sell some throughout the town, and they'll say name a price. I'm just making up numbers, 100 euros.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, per person. You're like, okay, well, that's something. And
Yeah.
then you start heading towards the Vatican, and you see a salesman go and says, "Hey, we got something for 100 euros." You're like, yeah, we heard it actually while we were in town. And you get closer, you say, 90 euros. And there's layers of salesmen with cheaper and cheaper prices as their
That is
opportunities
so
going
funny.
down. And the last guy in line, he says, "Okay, 40 euros a person." You're like, no, I'm definitely not interested at this point. He says, "Hold on, I'll call my manager. Special price, 30 euros per person." And then you're supposed to take that final last price as an advantage.
From
Crazy.
100 euros to 30 euros. That is insane.
And yeah, I can't imagine how many people buy at 100 when
yeah,
a bit of research could have done it. Something as simple as Reddit. Enter a destination you want to head to and say, and just type in Reddit. And a lot of people have conversations on what's the best steps.
Reddit is amazing for that information.
Well, it's one of the only places online where you have open conversations.
Yep.
It's one of the most popular places for that.
Highly recommend it, honestly. Yeah, unbiased or anything like that. People say it as it is for the good and bad reasons.
Yeah, exactly. The good, bad, the ugly's all on there.
So the other thing I got to go and say is if you're traveling on the cheap, stay away from tourist traps. Kind of sort of like I was saying about the restaurant scenario.
Yeah.
In Cuba, there's such thing as Cuban pesos and the Cuban convertible peso.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So the Cuban convertible peso is pegged to the US dollar.
Oh, okay.
So one Cuban convertible peso is $1 versus the Cuban peso is, I'm making this up because I've seen it, 10 cents, 20 cents on a dollar.
Oh, so the fraction.
So yeah, so if you go to a genuine Cuban restaurant, it may cost you $5 a plate versus if you go to a tourist attraction based Cuban, quote unquote Cuban restaurant, it's going to be $20, $30 a plate.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yes, very much so. But that's how they get you.
Yeah.
And so a tourist attraction like that is going to cost you way more versus if you go and do your proper research and find a genuine restaurant or anything like that, or just look around, you'll save a lot more money that way.
Yeah, no doubt.
That was the best. That was one thing I wrote down. The best way to save money is sightseeing.
Oh yeah, exactly. Although one thing I have noticed, and I don't know if you have an opinion on this, but I always found that tours, if you properly shop them, are so worth it.
If they're done, if they're made correctly, yes. And actually, the best example was our tour around the penitentiary.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
we had an enthusiast. I guess we may have lucked out. Yes, we paid money to go see a jail. It doesn't exist. It's not operational anymore. But we went to a city called Kingston. It had a supermax prison in Canada, and it has a lot of history back from the 1800s. So, needless to say, but I guess we lucked out having an enthusiastic tour guide. Yeah, but it was well worth it.
Honestly.
He knew what he was talking about. He was excited to go and give the information, and any type of any type of question. I think there's only maybe like one question that he just didn't know. Yeah. And I think it was something as mundane of when you were looking at that sewage pipe lid or and so like, was this made before? And he's like, I don't think so. He says, I don't think they'd have a lid with
But then he was able to supply some more information. Well, these walls go 12 feet down anyway.
Yeah. And he was able to give us even more information he gave us more information that was asked beforehand, which is insane.
And one of the big reasons we did that is we looked ahead of time and said, okay, what's the offering here?
Yes.
Tour versus extended tour. What does extended tour include? Oh, well, you get to talk to some retired people who were working there. Oh, yes. That's fantastic. That sounds so cool.
We met some really cool people.
And the advantage of looking things up is you get to look at reviews and see what all the offering is. Whereas if there's a salesman on the street, let's say like that tour that I was talking about in Rome at the Vatican City, you don't get to look up their reviews.
No, it's on the spot.
Exactly. So you're prone to whatever marketing they're offering.
The last thing I got to go and say in regards to planning activities is leave some area for free time. I think I've spoken this to you off air as well. Some people plan, and it's like, okay, well, from 1 to 2 we're doing this, from 2:30 to 3:30 we're doing this, and that half an hour between is just a travel time. And because of that, and I remember like my stepdad is like that, we would get upset because it's like, okay, well, we are actually enjoying this and we wouldn't mind staying here an extra hour over what that time was, but we got to cut it short to go to the next thing. And now you're living the trip is mediocre because you just keep cutting things. You keep cutting because you're just anticipating less than what the actual time is.
Yeah. And sometimes you will, let's say you're just tired for a night. You say, you know what, let's just drop this and pick it up the next day.
Yeah.
Things like that you want to do, because it can definitely be a trip ruiner if you show up and you're stuck doing things that you don't want to do. So yeah, free time is so important. And you'll see that pre-planned trips always allow for free time for people to do whatever they want.
If they know how to properly plan, yes.
Well, I mean, like a tour, let's say my tour.
Oh my God, yes.
New York. The last day is 3/4 free time. First day will take you around. You'll see some spots, and we'll finish with 2 hours of free time before heading back or something.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Which is really, really great. Now, the last component that we're talking about for this episode is the best tips to reduce your costs while or before your trip.
Oh, yes.
So the best thing I gotta say is use tools like Google Flights, TripAdvisor, Expedia, Kayak, Skyscanner for looking at different information. These types of aggregators, what they call, they're not just using one website. Like, let's say if you're looking directly on Air Canada or anything like that, they're going to look at all the websites. Yeah.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
The thing is you can't just base yourself off the aggregator itself.
True.
So if you're seeing a tendency of, let's say, Air Canada or WestJet or United Airlines has cheaper flights, go on the website itself now and then check to see if they have cheaper flights, because sometimes the cheapest flights are on the website itself directly.
True. Well, my favorite is inevitably Google Flights, because they even use those websites that scan all the other websites.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love looking at at Google Flights. I use it quite a bit.
Now, one thing that Google Flights doesn't do is offer you a prepackaged deal and say, oh, well, here's everything that it can offer you. For that, you got to do it yourself almost.
Yeah. Oh, yes. You'll have to plan it all out. But if you're able to plan it all out, there's an awesome thing that you could do. If you like to travel, take advantage of credit cards that work on traveling.
Oh, true.
You can save so much money. It's not even funny. Like, whether it be on insurance, like my credit card right now gives me free insurance, whether it be with my car, like not free insurance, car insurance, but like CAA or AAA. It also gives me insurance for traveling, and also I think reduced rates for carry-ons or additional luggage as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a really good card, but you don't get that if you with just a plain Jane credit card.
Yeah. Well, I know my brother, he's gotten one of those credit cards for traveling purposes. And
yes,
if he's got a disproportionate layover, something that's too long for his tastes, He says, hey, my credit card offers me free access to the premium lounges. So he can catch a dinner. He can, eat some food, maybe shower, or even catch some Z's at the airport,
They're nice lounges. They're very nice lounges.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my dad had a credit card. I mean, it's not free. Credit cards aren't free. No. My dad, I think, was paying $100 some odd a year for this credit card.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he managed to have 3 round flight trips across the United States for free.
Wow.
And this is him like putting, like, he did his roof and he put everything on the credit card.
Yeah, which is always a nice, actually, that's such a huge tip. If you have a big expense that surpasses the limit, sometimes you can always like overpay your credit card and then charge on it.
Yeah, well, that's it. And he was able to get good deals. And he says, I ended up getting so many points for flying off of doing that. He says, so I was saving money on top of that.
Yeah, honestly.
It's really, credit cards, look at them because they're awesome tools to have in these instances.
Yeah.
This is another tip that I've learned and I've actually experienced personally. If you don't have a design, like a designated seat on a flight,
mm-hmm.
that will greatly increase your chances of getting first class.
Really?
Yes. And I've actually been through that. My father has been through that too.
Really?
And what ends up happening is you just purchase your ticket, but you don't choose a seat. And especially when you're flying alone, there's no issue. There's no issues with that. Typically, the company overbooks. They purposely overbook.
Yeah.
So if they can't get you in there, they're obviously going to put you in first class.
Oh, I see. Well, maybe that's my problem. Is like pre-check-in online, which is effective. And does that let you do first class?
No, but that's what I typically do. And there was one time I couldn't, and I was having issues, and they went and said, well, it's all booked up, but we have seats in first class. And I remember the stewardess just smiling, and she says, how would you like first class? And I'm like, how about yes? I would really enjoy that.
Yeah.
And then I've been striving to get back into first class ever since.
Yeah. Owen starts going, please, I really want another first class ticket.
So that's an awesome way to do it. So if you're flying alone or anything like that, don't choose a seat. So simply put, don't choose a seat, and you're going to increase your chances of getting first class.
Honestly, I remember, and maybe another tip too to save some money while you're planning. I know for us, we live in Ontario, and we have a tax benefit available for taxpayers.
Yes.
So it was huge for us. We're like, oh, well, let's actually stay in Ontario because we're going to be able to claim part of our hotel expenses and get that back during tax season,
Yes.
Save that, put that as an expense.
It's true. If you live in Ontario, that's an awesome way to go and claim this staycation tax credit.
Yeah, that's it.
The next thing I got to go and say, I got 2 more points here, is there's been so a lot of people say clear your cookies when you want to go and look at flights or anything like that, go incognito.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually no proof at all proving that that's actually true.
Really?
There's no proof in regards to it that it actually increases the costs. And quite frankly, if that's the case and you're logged in, it could do the reverse effect of missing out on opportunities, because companies can actually send you emails in regards to lowered rates if you are logged in.
Oh, yeah. When you're almost done your checkout process, right?
Yeah.
And then they see, oh, this guy was almost done. Maybe we can just give him a 10 or 20% off for him to book.
Yep.
I see. Yeah, that's nice.
This flight has been reduced to this dollar. Book now before X date. I've seen that.
You sound like you're an airline right now. You're starting to sound like an airline. Oh, please keep your cookies on, guys.
That sounds like the airlines would say that.
Yeah, exactly. Although I guess they want less flights right now.
Yeah. So the last point I have is actually talking about reduction. You're talking about airlines reducing flights.
Yeah.
This one is reducing weight.
Okay.
If you have the opportunity to carry, just have a carry-on, you're going to save so much.
Oh yes.
On luggage. Like I pay like, what is it, $70, $80 just to have one piece of luggage.
Yeah.
It's $80 each way.
It's crazy, man.
It is insane.
Yeah, and actually, this is an ultimate cheapster trick. So I had a carry-on that was too heavy.
Yeah.
And they said, look, it's too heavy by a couple pounds. And I said, you know what? I was wearing shorts. I'm like, all right, hold on. I wore jeans that were in my luggage.
You sound like one of those TikTokers. Like you're 2 pounds over, and then after whispers to the side.
Yeah,
they don't know this trick that William Goulet taught me.
They don't know I listened to the College of Wealth podcast. And then I put some jeans on. I put on a heavier shirt. I put on, maybe a charger or two in my pockets. And I was able to fit in like that. And I mean, I certainly didn't do this, and I wouldn't advocate doing this. But then some people might also, once they're past security, put that right back in afterwards.
Oh my God.
Now, I don't know who would do that, but
Sounds like someone like you would do, something that you would do, Will.
Oh, I'd consider it if it just wasn't such a strong infringement on my morals and my ethics. Owen.
That is so funny. You're gonna tank the plane, man. You're 2 pounds overweight. The plane is not gonna take off now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How about what if I'm 2 pounds overweight? Put everything on. They would never dare. Never.
So I guess in this case here, we arrived at our destination.
Oh, very nice.
And we are now going to conclude this episode of the College of Wealth podcast. Make sure to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you haven't done so. Really appreciate it if you would do so. It helps us with the algorithm. And if you haven't done so, give
on our faces.
Yeah, or give us a follow on Instagram at the College of Wealth podcast.
Yep, that's right.
So that being said, my name is Owen Paradis. I'm here with my co-host William Goulet, and we're proud to present to you the College of Wealth podcast. Peace.
Ciao for now.
This has been your daily dose of motivation with the College of Wealth podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for listening, and until next episode.